We've decoded the defects, we have survived the lab, but now comes the biggest question in global manufacturing. How does the industry actually decide whether an entire shipment passes or fails? Because in global manufacturing, quality cannot depend on personal opinion. It needs to be measured through a system that is fair, consistent, and standardized across the factories, brands, and countries. That system is called the Acceptable Quality Level, aka AQL. Today, we are breaking down the AQL system step by step, how it works, why the industry relies on it, and how the professional use it to judge shipment quality at a global scale. By the end of this episode, you'll speak the language of garment inspection like someone who's actually worked inside the industry.
Before we get into the details, imagine you're the owner of a clothing brand. Sitting in front of you is a shipment of 20,000 t-shirts, and you have one job: decide whether to approve it so the factory gets paid or reject it and send it back for rework. So, how would you do it? Would you inspect all 20,000 t-shirts one by one? Unless you've hired an army of inspectors surviving on nothing but coffee, that's not happening. It would take forever and cost a fortune, or perhaps you'd just sign the inspection report without checking anything. That's also a great way to receive thousands of defective t-shirts and one very unhappy customer. So what's the smarter solution? Think of a fish pond. If you want to know whether the fish are healthy, you don't catch every single one. You catch a carefully selected sample and use it to judge the whole pond. The garment industry works exactly the same way. Instead of inspecting every garment, inspectors inspect a representative sample. This system is called Acceptable Quality Level, or AQL. Simply put, AQL tells inspectors how many garments to inspect and how many defects are acceptable before a shipment is accepted or rejected. Before using the AQL system, there are only two questions you need to answer. Just like our fish pond example, inspecting a small shipment isn't the same as inspecting a huge one. The AQL system simply adjusts the rules based on those two questions. Question 1. How big is our shipment? The first thing we need to know is the lot size, the official term for the total number of garments presented for inspection. It could be 500 pieces or 20,000 pieces. Bigger shipment, different sampling plan. Simple as that. Question 2. How strict should the inspection be? Next comes the general inspection level. Think of it as choosing your inspection mode. Level 1 checks fewer garments, Level 2 is the industry favorite, and Level 3 checks more when buyers want extra confidence. It's a bit like ordering coffee, small, medium, or large. Most of the garment industry sticks with the medium. In this case, that's Level 2. Once you've answered those two questions, the difficult part is almost over. The AQL system has already done all the calculations for you, so you don't need a degree in statistics or a calculator the size of a suitcase. Simply look up those two pieces of information in this table, and it will give you the code letter for your inspection. For our example, our shipment contains 20,000 garments, so we find our lot size in the left-hand column and move across to General Inspection Level 2. Where the two meet, the table gives us our sample size code letter, in this case, M. Next up, you will need to know how many garments you need to inspect and how many defects are allowed. Now take that code letter M to the inspection table shown on your screen. This is where the magic happens. The table tells you exactly how many garments you need to inspect and how many defects are allowed before the shipment is accepted or rejected. No more guessing, no more debating, and definitely no flipping a coin. Just follow the table and the AQL system does the heavy lifting for you. Let's continue with our example. Our shipment contains 20,000 garments, so earlier we found code letter M, which means we'll inspect 315 garments. Now let's say we're using the industry's most common standard of AQL 2.5 for major defects. Looking across to code M, the table shows 14 over 15. That simply means the shipment is accepted if we find 14 or fewer major defects. But the moment we find 15, the shipment is rejected. Think of it like a passing mark in an exam. You stay within the limit, you pass. Go over the limit, and you fail. So are the majors and minors added with each other, or can they be in tandem? Major and minor defects are never added together. They are judged independently. Let's use our example of a sample size of 315 garments. Suppose the buyer's standard is AQL 2.5 for major defects and AQL 4.0 for minor defects. If you find 12 major defects and 20 minor defects, the shipment passes because both numbers are within their respective limits. But if you find 15 major defects, even with only 5 minor defects, the shipment still fails because the major defect limit has been exceeded. The same applies the other way around. You could have only 8 major defects, but if you find 22 minor defects, the shipment still fails because the minor defect limit has been exceeded. In other words, major and minor defects each have their own passing mark, and both must stay within their limits for the shipment to be accepted. There's one final rule that's worth remembering. If one garment has both a major and a minor defect, it is generally counted as one major defect only. The minor on that same garment is not counted separately because the major defect takes precedence. This prevents double counting the same garment. This is the method followed under the international AQL inspection standards, such as ANS-IAS-QZ 1.4 and ISO 2859 Part 1. Many brands include the same principle in their inspection manuals, though a few may have brand-specific rules, so it's always worth checking customer requirements. So at this point, your job is almost complete. You know how many garments to inspect, and you know how to decide whether the shipment passes or fails. But before you start counting defects, there's one final detail to understand. Take a look at the top of the table. You'll notice different AQL values, such as 1.5, 2.5, 4.0, and 6.5. These numbers directly affect the acceptance and rejection limits. So naturally, the next question is, which AQL value should we use? The answer takes us back to the previous episode, where we learned about the 3 categories of garment defects: critical, major, and minor. Different defects have different levels of severity, so we don't treat them all the same. Instead, every brand or retailer defines its own quality standard in documents such as their quality manual or vendor guidelines. The most common combination you'll see in the garment industry, and the default used by most mass market and mid-market brands, is zero tolerance for critical defects, AQL 2.5 for major defects, and AQL 4.0 for minor defects. In other words, one critical defect is enough to fail the shipment, while buyers are generally more tolerant of minor defects than major ones. Now let's switch to another example using Code K. The rules are now very clear. Critical defects use 0/1, meaning even one critical defect is enough to reject the entire shipment. Major defects use 7/8. Find 7 or fewer, the shipment passes. Find 8 or more, it fails. And for minor defects, the limit is 10/11. Stay within the limit, the shipment is accepted. Go over it, and the shipment is rejected. It's really that simple. And that's the complete AQL inspection process. Start with the lot size, choose the inspection level, use the tables to find your sample size, inspect the garments, compare the defect counts against the buyer's AQL standard, and you'll have a professional, fair, and internationally recognized decision on whether the shipment should be accepted or rejected.
And this is it for today. With this foundation of garment quality defects, testing, and AQL inspection systems, you now understand the core knowledge used to control quality inside manufacturing factories. Whether you want to build a career in quality control, manage a production floor, or inspect your own garment orders, Congratulations, you can now speak with real confidence, backed by the professional language and knowledge of the garment industry. You've just watched another episode of BSKB, Bite-Sized Knowledge Bombs, brought to you by Blossom 360. Our mission is simple. We bridge the gap between classroom theory and factory floor reality through immersive industry tours and hands-on training. We are here to give students and entrepreneurs the inside edge that most brands keep behind closed doors. If you're ready to master the production process, hit subscribe to stay ahead of the curve. Give us a like if you're one step closer to fashion mastery. And I'll catch you in the next one.